Joining us now, Paul Bracken. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and professor of political science and business at Yale University. Professor, great to see you.
It's good to be here.
Academia has had some problems in, if you will, coping with this president and his style of leadership. Right now, I would have to think that most of academia, as it's represented to us by the national left-wing media at least, is beside themselves, watching this president accomplish again a great moment in less than a year and a half in office.
Well, academia, as you know, is not the biggest fan of this particular president. Actually, having been on campus quite today, yesterday, what I see is a shock that this is taking place at all. That this, whatever you think about this is a really historic development. The mere fact that it exists is the amazing thing. These summits we grew up with as kids with the Russians and later the Chinese, now we're meeting with North Korea. And the way that we got here is something that it indicates the failures of all of the earlier policies to get a handle around the North Korean nuclear weapons program. And so now we're trying a different approach.
And really, it's the failures of three successive presidencies, Clinton, Bush, and Obama. This president is doing something that they could not even conceptualize, and that is treating Kim with direct, forthright respect, as well as a very sincere statement of consequences should he misstep.
I think that's right. It also shows to me a shrewd reading of the Chinese. Okay, China is really important in this, not just for North Korea, but we need China. People forget China is key to the other major nuclear problem in the world, and that's Pakistan, the fastest growing nuclear state in the world today. So their investments, this One Belt, One Road, could really positively impact both Northeast Asia, the Korean case, and also Pakistan. So we're really in a new world.
We're in a new world, and when you mention Pakistan, one has to mention 1 billion people who live in India as well, which has been so ignored by presidents going back to World War II. It has been one of the great, I think, missed opportunities for the United States geopolitically that we have not embraced India. And frankly, they represent a strategic counterpoint, a countervailing influence, if you will, in the region. To China and its hegemonic dreams that is just waiting for us to understand.
It's absolutely necessary because the U.S. alone can't deal with what's happening in Asia, either in North Korea or China. But we're trying to build a system. It's a new system, so we're feeling our way very carefully. In a lot of ways, it's like 1948, 49. You don't know what to do, so you're creating these new alliances. But India has to be a part of that to counter China.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And this president, it would be nice to be able to say of our academic friends that they had come up with these brilliant ideas about building bridges and new coalitions and a new perspective for the United States toward both the East as well as the West, but they haven't. This is really the fruit of this president who has been a disruptor, who has been frankly, an impolitic leader, but a highly successful leader to 16 months in office.
If you look at the writings on this kind of issue, what we call grand strategy in the world today, the other thing which this particular president draws on is his experience in business. And what you see in the writings on grand strategy, it's almost always historians or political scientists, not people from business, not people from the technology industry. And the tech industry is having an influence on where we're going with this now because they are really upsetting the strategic balance.
They are also apoplectic.
They're apoplectic, but they're upsetting the strategic balance. And so a lot of people in Washington, so, give credit where credit is due. If something comes out of this, kudos to this president. But it's a very different set of information channels that are coming in to formulate the plans and the ideas.
It is still, though, when we credit the titans of technology in Silicon Valley in particular, but also the Northwest and some parts of the Midwest and East, but very few. Technology right now is driving itself in its own interest and being, if you will, super state in their outlook rather than looking, as this president is, at global balances, whether they be trade balances, I think to the shame of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. This is the president, this disruptive, unorthodox president, anti-orthodox, anti-establishment president, has been the one calling for balances in international trade, which is an absolute sine qua non for prosperity in this world. And it's extraordinary that the Europeans have, again, have been so statist they cannot reach an understanding of what they've really done.
So many issues are percolating up now. The whole multinational corporations, these Chinese companies, getting U.S. intellectual property, selling products with getting I'm being polite here, borrowing, as we used to say.
There you go.
All right, and these are really new issues we've never had before. They never came up in the Cold War for obvious reasons. So we are, whoever would be in power now, I think it would have been faced by these issues. But this particular president is just decided to charge ahead as he sees fit.
Charge ahead as he sees fit. And to do. He is not content to if you will, babble on. He is not content to sit down and have discussions. He's content to have a discussion that leads to real action. That's what's going to be so interesting about tonight. What will be the foundation that he and Kim can set going forward?
I think this is going to look a lot different 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road. You look at past summits, Nixon going to China, and a year later, their significance was greater than even when they were there. So I think whatever happens in the next 24 hours, while interesting and important, the mere fact that you have a summit meeting between North Korea and the United States, it breaks a lot of plate glass windows so people can pursue other channels of improving relations and getting North Korea to be a more normal country. That China's going to have to work with us on that, but we have our role too.
I think there's another thing that happens here as we talk about normalization on the Korean Peninsula, and that is perhaps a normalization of the United States, a realization that we are still the most powerful country on this earth, that we have the best amongst a group of leaders. And by the way, that may be faint praise, but I don't mean it that way. Donald Trump, without question, leader of the free world. And it's the first time we can say that with conviction about a president for a very long, long time.
Right. The United States plays a unique role in whatever happens. We need allies, clearly we do. But those allies are shifting. It's like we now need India in many ways more than we needed the old European allies when we were trying to deter the Soviets in Europe.
Maybe North Korea will also have a part to play. Who knows?
Maybe even Russia will have a part to play.
Oh, be careful. There is a special counsel at work. Professor, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Paul Brackett, Yale University. Good to see you. Come back soon.